Hello again, everyone. We are the Vinyl Community Guncles, and this time around, a lot of us are in heat because it's like 103 degrees. I have central air.
Oh,
I do not.
I do.
And I'm in
I had air conditioning, but I
closed-off
turned it off.
room.
Oh,
Wow. Okay. He's one of those types. He's one of the
No,
we're gonna
because it's
find
probably
it.
too loud. He doesn't want it on during the.
Yeah, it would have been too loud. It's my
Oh.
window unit, and it's right there.
Yeah.
So this time around, we're discussing our top 5 favorite albums from Depeche Mode, which means all of us just listened to 14 Depeche Mode albums this week. Wow.
And maybe not necessarily our top 5 favorites, but the 5 that we rank the highest.
Well, okay.
yeah. Isn't that one your favorite, Richard?
Okay, so I'm Robert
Might not
Fifth, and
be your
along with
favorite.
Mike from Hub Tunes and Craig from Craig's Vinyl Plethora, and ladies and gentlemen, the man who's obviously so hot that he's no longer making sense, Richard from Calvin Wazoo.
My brain is being parboiled.
Yes. So who's I think Craig obviously should go
Craig,
first. I don't think
Yeah.
anybody likes Depeche Mode more than he does on this program, unless he and Mike want to battle it out for Depeche Mode supremacy.
Or
Supreme
Depeche Mode.
You can go first, Craig.
That's what people.
KMFDM.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I remember why they came up with that moniker.
That's not true, by the way. That's
Not
Well,
true.
no, that's just
That's just what everybody.
I just
said
remembered
about
that from
I don't remember
You know,
what it
the-
stands for, but it's something in German. But anyway, yes, Craig is first
Right.
with his
Yeah.
number 5.
my number 5.
Yeah.
So, so I mean, Depeche Mode, I've been listening to them since, God was a baby. And I've had moments throughout my life where I've hated them and then I've really loved them again. And I think when it'll come up. So when it comes up, I will discuss the hatred years of Depeche Mode. But to me, there's more than 5. But so I just kind of had to go with the ones that were, I guess, the most sentimental to me and the most listened and that. And there's one that I can't believe is not in my top 5, but there was no room for it. So with that being said, number 5 for me is their 1997 album Ultra. This is the first album without Alan, right? Or is
Yeah.
you right? Yeah. Because what's this? Yeah. So this is the first one without Alan. It's very chill. It's very just kind of there. I don't know. But some of my favorite songs of theirs are on here, especially The Bottom Line. That song is just freaking fantastic. And it's Ultra. I listen. This is one that is played a lot. And I drink a lot of wine when I listen to this album. So this is my wine.
That makes sense.
This is my drinking wine Depeche Mode album, Ultra from 1997.
Wow. Okay. So I was turned on to Depeche Mode. I wasn't real big into them in high school. They weren't really my thing. I knew of them. I heard, the hits, the early hits and stuff. So I knew they were there, in MTV and stuff. But when I went to college my freshman year in 1985, 86, my roommate, I walked into the room. I had never met this guy. His name was Carl. And I walk in and I look on his side of the room and he's already got his posters up on the wall. And it was Depeche Mode, The Cure, Jesus and Mary Chain, and just Joy Division. And I was like, oh, this is going to be interesting. And he turned me on to Depeche Mode right away. Those early albums, listened to them a lot. And all those 80s albums. And honestly, none of those albums made it in my top 5. So my number 5 is... Songs of Faith and Devotion. I really like this record. I'm getting a glare. I really like this record. I love the song I Feel You. I think it's a great opener. The first 5 or 6 of Judas is great. I really, really enjoy this record. Absolutely fantastic. This is, you know what else is real nice about Depeche Mode? I mean, all their stuff is in print. you can go out and get everything. I mean, there's a couple of the more recent albums that are not out there. You know, might cost you a few pennies, but most everything is really pretty reasonably priced. So yeah, that's my number 5. I'm going with that. That was a tough pick. I almost went in a different direction, but yeah, that's number 5.
So yeah, for me, I didn't know a lot about Depeche Mode. I just knew the one song that was on the radio, and there was only one song on the radio here in the '80s, and that was "People Are People." That's all the Depeche Mode I knew for like 5 years, or maybe 4 years, and I did not like that song at all. I just don't. I don't think I knew what the word reductionism was when I was in the 6th grade or 7th grade. But to take
not a cooking term.
Yeah, no, to take a topic as complex and serious as racism and turn it into a dance song and say that ridiculous line about "I can't understand what makes a man hate another man." Yes, you can't understand. You can't understand the concept of hate. Bullshit. I hate that. Hate. Again, if you can't understand why a man would hate an entire race, that's a different thing. But I can't understand why a man would hate another man. That's just stupid. Martin Gore's vocals from right there. And now I don't like Martin Gore's vocals, and that's lasted a lifetime. I'm not into him at all. I don't know about him as a person, but his singing style, I don't care for at all. I didn't hear any more Depeche Mode until, I mean, I heard their name thrown around, but I didn't hear any more until I think 101 was out. And Blasphemous Rumors was played off that on MTV, and I thought that was pretty bold and daring, that somebody would come out with a song like that. It was right around the same time as Dear God from XTC was out. And so I thought, wow, what's going on? This is pretty, I don't really care for the song, but it's pretty bold that somebody would do that. And then Violator was out, like right as I was graduating, or right after I graduated high school, and heard the singles off of that. And I really liked one of them. The other two were just kind of okay, and that's about as good as I got with Depeche Mode. And then later on, when I started working at Blockbuster Video, there was a super fan there, and we had their videotape for catching up with Depeche Mode, which here is the CD. The video cassette has a couple of songs that aren't on here, and this guy would play this on the overhead all the time. So that's when I started to know all of their earlier stuff. And a couple of those songs were okay, and that's, I got a couple of their tapes, Music for the Masses and Violator and whatever. And then Songs of Faith and Devotion came out. I didn't care for that, and then I just kind of didn't know anything else about them. So this is the first time I've heard anything from them past, I think, I heard Ultra once, which I don't know where that CD is because I have it. Anyway, not Ultra, what's the one after? Exciter. Heard that once. Anything else I've never heard after that. So this is an introduction to all of that. And one of them kind of stood out. It might have been because it was the first album I heard this week from them. The cat picked most of them out, what order I listened to them in.
Thank you, kitty.
And it's an album that is very polarizing, apparently. People either love it or hate it. But it's at my number 5, and that is Delta Machine. And I do not have it to show. But it is doesn't sound like Depeche Mode. That's probably why it's at my number 5. But I've seen people hate this album. I've seen people love it and say it's one of the best albums of the year. It's very atmospheric. It sounds almost like a soundtrack, and I heard it when I was driving at 4 o'clock in the morning. So that might have had something to do with it too. Great driving at 4 o'clock in the morning music. It sounds nice and full. It doesn't sound kind of flat and clunky like some of their earlier stuff. And not a lot of Martin Gore involved with the vocals. And so, yeah, I think I liked it more than Depeche Mode fans probably do. But yeah, Delta Machine, my number 5, Depeche Mode.
Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, I have 3 Depeche Mode albums, and as I was listening to all the albums, I began to realize that 2 of the 3 I really didn't care for anymore. And some of them are like revered, I think, by some Depeche Mode fans, and you take a couple singles off of them, and to me there wasn't a lot there. and I was getting real tired. I went chronological order. And so I was getting real tired of listening to Depeche Mode. And then
me with the Violent Femmes.
Yeah. But then something shifted. And their later material I found was so much more enjoyable, to me than their early 80s material, and even their 90s material. There is one, however, that stood the test. It was an 80s album, and it's one that I do have, and that is Music for the Masses. And I gave it another listen today to make sure, that it belonged in the list. Delta Machine was one that was up in my list for a while, but as I was listening to others, it kept getting bumped down. And this one always sustained. It's the opening track has always been a favorite song, Never Let Me Down Again. But then the things you said, that song as well, it's I can't always tell necessarily the difference between the different singers, but I think overall David Gayen's voice is the one I like the most.
Spectacular.
And I have more to say about him later with that voice. Some of the songs are really bizarre, and like Little 15, that is it pushes right up against Creep, and I don't mean the Radiohead song. I mean the creepy factor. It kind of bumps up against it. But then with other listens, I began to not respond that way to it so much. But yeah, there's some. This was, despite it coming in at number 5, this is one record where all the way through the songs are evenly. What's the word? I don't want to say evenly paced, but there's no. There are a couple of really good singles, but there are no glaring clunkers, I guess is what I want to say. And so I got some albums that I'm going to rate higher that, have a couple of clunker songs in here. But
it's consistent. It's consistent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the word. Yeah, it's much more consistent, and of the early.
It doesn't have a lot of highs, and it doesn't have a lot of lows. That's fine.
To me, it's not in my top 5. That is really a good way to describe it, but I would say the definite high is going to be Never Let Me Down Again.
Yeah.
To me, that's the strongest song on there. And the rest of them are it's listenable. This is an album I will listen from start to finish, and I'm not going to want to skip over something. The only 80s album that sustained, my interest because, whatever. It's the only one that did.
It's the best of their 80s albums, definitely.
Yeah.
Craig disagree.
We'll have a contrary opinion here in a moment.
If this is even going to be speak and spell. Craig's turn for number 4.
So Depeche Mode leads fast fashion.
Yes, it does.
Yes. And at my number 4...
Is that like a drag race?
Yes. Yes. My number 4 is Speak and Spell.
Wow.
Don't wow me. Don't Craig me. Because this record...
There's 2 of them.
Yes, because I have my original US, and then I have the reissue because the UK version had a song called Sometimes I Wish I Was Dead. It is not on the US release. And the reissue had Dreaming of Me, which is not on the original album. So that is why I have the reissue. Okay.
Is the reissue a gatefold?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's a gatefold.
I still have my original from college.
Yeah. It's corny. It's very poppy. It's very 1981 or whatever, the year that 1981. But this album, because I wasn't going to put it in my list, and then I listened to it again this week, and the happiness that it brought me, because I go back to like hearing this for the first time when I'm, like 13, 14 years old. And at 13, 14 years old, this was a really special album to me. And yeah, there's some good singles and stuff, and yeah, just can't get enough. That's another one, especially their early '80s. That's like one of the biggest hits. It's not it's not one of my favorites. For me, like Puppets and No Disco, like that is like those two particular songs are like where it's at for me. And I like What's Your Name because I learned how to spell pretty by listening to What's Your Name. I wouldn't have known how it's Pretty.
I can appreciate that they have a blatantly gay song on there with "What's Your Name," and
you were
they don't do that
before you knew how to spell pretty.
They don't do that again. They don't. They flirt around with it and do the gay baiting, but they don't have a blatantly gay song except for the first album because they don't have a gay member. I don't think, except for the first album.
No,
they have.
And he sounds like he's in charge of the band. I listened to that. I didn't care for it at all. But I did notice that
Clark is not gay.
Oh, he's not?
No, Andy Bell is. Vince Clark is not.
Yeah.
Oh,
so they had no gay members.
I don't like him. Yeah. I like him even less now than I did. And I don't like him at all. Jerk off. But I did notice listening to it that Dave Gahan is singing in the same kind of what's like a phrasing. His phrasing is the same as Alison Moyet's in Yazoo. And you know that Vince Clark was in charge of that. Had to have been.
I noticed that a little bit too.
It's just the way that the words are kind of phrased over the melody and whatever. It sounds like Alison Moyet's in Yazoo.
I can see that.
Which is
I will say that of all the artist rankings that we've done, this has been the one I've had the most fun with. Because all the other ones I kind of knew the music of. I mean, I knew this music, but I hadn't listened to it. I hadn't listened to some of these records in a decade. And, like the Bowie stuff, I listen to that all the time. The Beatles, I listen to that all the time. The Violent Femmes, I'll never listen to again. But this, I absolutely love this. I last Saturday, I walked to the beach from my house. It's a 3-mile walk. And I put on my headphones and I just started listening to Depeche Mode. And I listened to one record each way, back and forth. So it was a 6-mile walk each way. And I just was bopping along, having a great time. I really enjoyed this. It was a lot of fun. Just to hear these records over and again. And so my number 4, I'm going with Black Celebration. I love the title track. I love this. I mean, this is my original. It's all raised. It's a really beautiful packaging of how they did this on the back too. This is all raised, embossed and raised. Fly on the Windshield, A Question of Lust. Sometimes the Stripped. I love Stripped. This is a really, really good record. I almost put it higher, and then something else came along, which I kind of knew would come along. But yeah, I absolutely love this record. Really, really cool. Black Celebration. My number 4.
So my number 3, my number 4, I don't have to show either, and it is Construction Time again from 1983. They basically, from what I'm hearing, have like 4 different sounds. They have that real like cheap video game sound on the first album, and then they have this sound for a while, and then they have the Violator type, not 101. What's the one? Songs of Faith and then they have the later sound, and this sounds a lot like what is this one? Some Great Reward, but Some Great Reward has some really awful songs on it. So I would choose Construction Time again just because it has a fuller melodies. It's definitely 80s, but it's a lot more fun and kind of like you were saying, it gets you up and energetic, and it's like Richard was saying about music for the masses, it's more consistent. There's not any kind of weird stuff. There's nothing that really taxes your attention and is like, God, is this going to end type of thing. The songs are kind of, the typical 4.5-minute songs. And there's nothing on there that is a complete eye roll like there is on Some Great Reward. I was not, oh my God, that Somebody song on there, that used to be on the videotape for Catching Up with Depeche Mode. Wow, Martin Gore, what, come on, dude, really? The lyrics, I want somebody to, what does that go? The one part about I want somebody to give me support, and in the end, I'll support it just sounds like a sixth grader. Right? Anyway, I don't like that song either. It's kind of embarrassing to hear that. That was kind of like embarrassed for him.
When we decided to do Depeche Mode, I thought that was going to be in my top 5.
That song?
It would have been no.
We're not doing song. Yeah,
I thought it would have been. It probably would have been my number 6.
I should have probably talked about my least 5 favorite. I would have been a lot more entertaining because I can speak a lot more. I keep going back to what I didn't like because I'm not really passionate about what I did like. It's like I liked it because it wasn't horrible. That's why I liked Construction Time again. It didn't make that horrible, but it didn't make my eyes roll. It didn't make me go, Jesus Christ. Song 6? I thought this was song 9. It's like, so that's why it's my number 4.
Yeah.
Not a lot of Martin Gore on that one either. And he's kind of in the background when he is on. He's not doing that whole, I want somebody to,
when you mentioned that had me, there's many songs that they have where
yes, he's drinking.
The song itself, the
pretty
melody.
Soon going to throw out the glass and just grab the bottle and start chugging it.
I got you, Craig.
There's the songs that melody wise, the structure of the song, the hook to the song is good, but then the lyrics are just so. Yeah, it's what's that song by? I don't know. It's not Pat Benatar, but I want to. Is it Cyndi Lauper? I want to be somebody. Oh, whatever. My number 4.
Whitney Houston. I want to dance with somebody who loves me.
Oh yeah. All right, that's what I'm thinking of.
I want to dance. Oh, that's our next. We're ranking.
Yes, that's better than a Depeche Mode song.
God, please don't.
Whitney.
I would never let
that's next.
My number 1's their second album. That's a given.
My number 4 is their newest album, Memento Mori.
Really?
I don't have a lot, in terms of notes about it because I was doing everything chronological order, so it was like one of the last albums I listened to, and what I ended up doing was just listening to a couple others in parts to make sure that I felt comfortable with the order and all that. But yeah, Memento Mori is a. You see, I like the dark Depeche Mode much better than the synth pop Depeche Mode.
Yeah, me too.
I like it when they're kind of they're heading towards the dark side. I also feel like. Although this isn't the album where his voice really comes in, but Dave Gahan's voice is really strong, on the songs there that he's singing. He doesn't look like a, long-necked, geeky kid anymore, which he wasn't unattractive. I never thought he was unattractive because I kind of thought that his physical appearance and the way he sang worked really well, because it made it's if he was knocking on my door, I wouldn't turn him away.
Didn't you used to look like Dave Gahan? I remember when we had pictures of us that we used to put up in the year videos, and you sent the one. I'm like, why do I have a picture of the guy from Depeche Mode? I wanted a picture of Richard. Who is this? It was like 1990 or something. You look like Dave Gahan in that picture.
I don't know what picture we're talking about.
It's a black and white picture. I think you have a tank top on.
Yeah. Oh, that's the one from the Grand Canyon.
Yeah, you look like because he had a tank top and that whole like 101 movie, didn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, he wore
Yeah.
lots of
I
tank
did.
tops.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't have very many specific notes about the songs, but I do remember that yes, I like this song. I feel like it's much more developed. I think the overall writing was and delivery of the songs was more mature, and I like the darkness of it. I like the fact that it's a response to, I guess one of them had recently died or something, and so I do want to give it some more listens
I do too.
To kind of get a better feel for it. I mean, it was just released this year, earlier this spring, and but I also get what Robert was saying. Sometimes I'd be looking at the songs and I'm going, what, 6 minutes, 7 minutes? I mean, yeah, there's some songs that are really good that they're long like that, but some of them are just. But yeah,
It revolves a
anyway,
lot around death too, because of the death of what's his face?
Andrew.
Yeah, and I had this affinity for
Andy.
dark records like that. In fact, some of the other ones that the higher ones, it plays a significant part in why I enjoy the record. Yeah, so Memento Mori for number 4, and I do definitely want to listen to it some more and get to know it a little better.
And if anybody's interested in my review of that album, I did a video of it on my YouTube channel along with a bunch of other newer releases from Willie Nelson and Metallica and whatever. So if you want to hear like an opposite opinion where I say things like the writing sounds like it was done by somebody in junior high, you can watch my video.
Oh god damn, Robert Fitton. So the thing about, and Memento Mori is not on my list, but I will say that compared to like the last like 3 or 4 records prior to this is the best material they've released in a while. The one before I can't even listen to, and
What, Spirit?
Spirit I cannot listen to. That.
That's the political one, right? Where every song is like, I don't like corporations or okay.
I do not enjoy it at all. But
that was almost my number 5.
We know it's not in my list, but I'm sure it looks like it's probably in somebody else's, but that's fine.
Interesting.
And I think that Ghosts Again, though, like for us, like compared to some of the singles that they've released over the last few records, like that, whether you like the record or not, Ghosts Again is like a really good single, in my humble opinion. Which does not fucking matter. So, number 3 for me is Music for the Masses from 87. So, it's never the one. I remember the day that my brother and I got this cassette tape, and we didn't stop listening to it for like 6 months. It was like the greatest creation we had ever heard of at that point in our lives. This was one that I have been listening to since its release. It compared to the early records, this was like when their sound was starting to change a little different. Of course, it gets a little. Then you're starting to add guitars once you hit the violator and beyond. But and Never Let Me Down Again. What a great starter. And what a fantastic song. The song that just, the things you said is just absolute perfection to me. And that song just really resonated with me, especially during that time in my life. It was as if everybody, like, it's what everybody was saying about me. I'm hearing you say these things. This is the way the community, this is the way the people I know, this is what you're saying about me. And so that's why that song really, it will always be very like here for me. Behind the Wheel, Strange Love, huge single. I think Little 15 is fabulous. And I mean, nothing in the ending, which is just instrumental, which is in another one of their songs, I believe.
All the Russian that they're talking about with the nuclear. Yeah.
And then Pleasure Little Treasure was on the CD version of this. It's not on the album, and it was not on the cassette. It was on the late, I believe. And that was just a single. It's not on there or the album. But listen to Pleasure Little Treasure, because It has the freaking Personal Jesus. I was like, Personal Jesus isn't Pleasure Little Treasure, because I've been listening to B-sides. I've been listening to like, it's really reminding me of how much I love this band, and some of their B-sides just outweigh some of their album tracks. But like, just yeah. So that's all I have to say about Music for Masses from 1987. You're welcome.
Wow. Well, my number 3 is Spirit. I loved this record when it came out, and I put it on, and I still love it. I love the sound of it. I love the sound and his voice. For me, Depeche Mode is Dave Gahan's voice, and his voice is getting stronger and better. I don't know if he's learning how to sing or what it is, but his voice, especially here and on the next 2 records, and even still on the new one, his voice is getting much better.
He's off the drugs, right? Wasn't he really had a hard plunge into drugs? I don't know where that was in the chronology, but I know he cleaned up and apparently started even sounding better. And
and I think his vocals sound great on this record. I love how political it is. I'm a big fan of that. But it's produced. The production on this is great. It's got a really nice sound to it. But yeah, Spirit. That's my number 3.
Okay, my number 3 is what a lot of people would consider their breakthrough, their big one, the one that got into the malls, and that is Violator. And as I kind of alluded to earlier, this was the first one, except with the exception of People Are People, which was on the radio in '85. Didn't hear them again for like 4 years. Heard Blasphemous Rumors a lot on MTV, 120 Minutes. But this was the one where they were back on the radio again with Personal Jesus, which I always thought was okay. But the one for me was Enjoy the Silence. That's probably, the one where I was like, oh, okay, these guys aren't too bad. They actually have a guitar in their thing. I love that guitar riff and everything. And went out and got the CD. It was one of the... first CDs that I got where it was like a new, because when I first got my CD player, I think it was '89. My first, inclination was to get a bunch of classic rock CDs, that I best of and compilate. So this is one of the first like newer albums where it was just out and I got the CD. Never had it on cassette or anything to lead up to that. But I quickly found out that Enjoy the Silence is really one of the only good songs on it. If anything screams singles band, it's this album. But I just love the Enjoy the Silence so much that this became my number 3 off of that, pretty much that song alone. The Personal Jesus is okay. And Policy of Truth is all right. And I always thought that Policy of Truth, the only issue I had with that is that a song about, is it advising people not to come out of the closet? That's what I always got out of that song.
I never got that, but I don't know if that's the case, but I never got that from
whatever they're talking about is like, don't tell the truth about something or you're going to regret it.
Well, maybe you don't tell the truth in general because you're going to regret it.
I think the song is
don't tell it when you're young, basically. When you decide, all your problems are going to multiply when you decide in your youth on the policy of truth. You had something to hide, you should have kept it hid, shouldn't you? Never before, never again is what you swore the time before. It all just made me think
about that. I think it's just about, the cynicism of growing up and, realizing that, adults are nothing but fucking liars.
So don't tell the truth.
Don't tell the truth.
Yeah, well, I always thought it was, because I assumed a lot of them were all gay, when I was growing up. That's the New Order's all gay, Depeche Mode's all gay, The Cure's all gay.
Everyone's gay.
When you grow up in Southern Illinois, where I did, and none of this stuff is on, and only the literal gay people in high school that aren't out, they're just, I've got a girlfriend in Idaho. Those people are all listening to New Order and Depeche Mode and whatever because they're all gay. And I thought that's what that meant. But yeah, nothing else on here. I mean, Clean is just... It's like, dude, you're about ready to plunge into drug land, and you're doing a song about how clean you are. But World in My... I remember putting it on and hearing the first song and going, World in My Eyes, and just kind of being completely underwhelmed. but yeah, just Enjoy the Silence. It might as well be a single for Enjoy the Silence. It's my number 3 Depeche Mode Violator.
Not even Blue Dress, because
Oh, Blue Dress is Martin Gore. No.
That's the best freaking song on that album.
Oh, no, that's Martin. No.
No, that
Blue Dress.
no.
I love seeing you, Blue Dress.
No, put it on. The one that I adore.
Put it on.
That is
the one I adore.
You're making it sound terrible, but that is the best
That's
song
not
on that
helping.
record.
You know,
That is
I
the
have
best-
that record, but it did not make my list because,
Really?
as far as I'm concerned, if you take Personal Jesus off that record, there's nothing there.
Yeah, that's how I feel about Enjoy the Silence. I mean, Personal G is okay, but
I like Personal
That's
Jesus.
a
That's
sides,
that's
though.
a good groove. It's got I like that song, but
Here I go, like with the B-sides again, but there were 3 really great. You had Happiest Girl, Sea of Sin, and Dangerous, which were all. Check those out.
I've always been an album person.
Those B-sides are almost better than anything else on the records, other than Blue Dress.
is that like the Doobie Brothers Dangerous? Dangerous.
No.
That's why you love it. No,
it's dangerous the way you leave me wanting more. That's what I meant.
My number 3 is, and I don't have a copy of it, but it's the 1997 release Ultra.
Oh.
I like it because this is when they start to get they're starting to become darker in the overall sound to me, and it's got a more industrial edge to it. Yeah. They're bringing in real drums. They're bringing in, it's not quite as, it's not, I don't even want to say synthy. It's not quite as synthetic as the earlier material. I'm feeling a little more, so it's like, something you can grab onto. The music is plumper. It is more gentle, not gentle, but I don't mean it's like gentle, but I mean it's gentle in a way that it's more comfortable, and I have an affinity for this darker feel to some music. I mean, not all music I listen to has necessarily that darkness to it, but when it's done well, I really do like it. And to me, this is when they started developing their sound was more mature. To me, it wasn't, as like I said, it wasn't synthetic anymore. It wasn't so much. This to me was the record in which things really started to turn around. I think for them and also for me in my appreciation, of them. So, Ultra, I can't really identify. I was trying to go back and re-listen to some of the records so that I could pick out singles or, individual songs. I was more successful doing that with my top 2 than I was with the numbers 3 and 4. But yeah, Ultra from 1997, that the industrial sound. I do like that when they have that going on in the music.
Barrel of a Gun and Home were the singles off of that. I think one other song I can't remember, but Barrel of a Gun was an odd first single. I think Useless might have been a single.
I think they were going for the we're hard now. We're not synthy pop whatever dance music. We're like industrial because it was what 1997.
Yeah.
Nine Inch Nails.
Nine Inch
changing,
Nails. Yeah. That whole.
Well,
we're Marilyn Manson.
Produced that record for them?
They tried to get on active rock radio. I remember that, but it did not work. We did not play that. But yeah, Barrel of a Gun. They're a gun. They're wow. Violence.
Tim Simonon produced it. Because you just asked that, right?
Okay.
Yeah. That's a heavy producer. That's not a.
I don't know who that is.
Wasn't he associated with the Clash for a while, or?
No,
maybe I'm
that's
thinking
Paul
of-
Simonon. That's the
No,
drummer.
Okay,
he was
okay.
their drummer.
Oh, okay.
What do I know?
I know nothing. You know even less. Okay. That's something I used to say all the time. Okay, so number two for me. I don't. This is the album that the first tour I saw of them. I saw them twice on this tour. It was the first time I ever saw them. Just said that because it was the first tour, but whatever. I'm drinking wine. Mm. Anyways, so this like
It's just your wine girl.
this to me was just like so different than anything they had done prior to this. This was yeah. So from 1993, Songs of Faith and Devotion. Like I said, the first time I saw them, and you're talking about industrial. It's kind of interesting. So the first, like I think it'll be number 6 when I see them in November. So I've seen them 5 times. 4 out of those 5 times, Stabbing Westward has opened for them. So there you have it. Anybody remember Stabbing Westward?
Yeah, we used to play them.
Yeah, that song, Nothing. It's the only song I know, Nothing.
They're from
yeah.
Illinois, right?
I don't know. I've just seen them like 4 times. So
yeah, they had. We had a couple of their songs on the radio. I don't remember. I remember Nothing was one.
Nothing is the only song I remember.
Something about peeling something.
I don't know. Peeling a grape? No, that's Diana Krall. Anyways, and I feel you. I don't really care for that song. I thought it was kind of a weak first single, and I was kind of thinking I wasn't going to like this.
Love it.
I don't know. There's something.
God, I love the groove on it. I
don't know. I mean, but then you go into Walking in My Shoes and Condemnation and Mercy in You, and then you get to fucking Judas, and that song to me is absolute perfection. Like it's up there in it's definitely in my top favorite Depeche Mode songs of all time. Like there's something.
I remember listening to Judas on
It's a
this
great
record.
song. Yeah.
So it just does something to me. And there is not other than I would say to me, I Feel You is the weakest track on this. There's not a song I don't like. I like the song, but to me that's like there's not a song I do not like on this record. And I mean, you get Right With Me, Rush, One Caress, Higher. I mean, this is to me, it's almost perfection, but not quite there. Like almost, but pretty damn close for a Depeche Mode record. So number 2 for me from 1983 is Songs of Faith and Devotion, plus the memories of seeing them and the friends that I saw this concert with. Of course, Shane was at those with me because, yeah. 3 out of the few times I've seen him.
It's a great record. My number 2 is God. I had such a different review than the 2 up here. I love Violator. I first of all, it's got 3 singles are awesome. I still love Personal Jesus. I crank that every time I hear it. But I love the album tracks too. I love Halo and what else is there? Sweetest Perfection. I love that song. Waiting for the Night. I really like Blue Dress. I love this record. I really, really, really dig it. And when we figured out we were going to do Depeche Mode, I knew this was going to be easily in my top 3. But this is my number 2 is Violator. I absolutely love it.
All right, quick lesson in Stabbing Westward. They are from Macomb, Illinois, and in college we played Lies and Nothing on the commercial radio. When I got to that, we played What Do I Have to Do and Shame. And from the CD Darkest Days, it was Save Yourself and Haunting Me.
I know nothing.
You
know nothing.
None of those are very good songs.
Nothing was the only one I remember being kind of good.
Hard industrial, very just... But they're from Macomb. So
They will not be opening for Depeche Mode in November, correct?
I don't believe so.
I think they're done. But stabbing
Yeah.
westward refers to West, the college, whatever is in Macomb, or Western University or whatever.
Western Illinois?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So my number two, I've got two albums left from Depeche Mode, and they're the two albums I actually like the albums. So I really only like two Depeche Mode albums. I found that out. I was kind of surprised. But my number two is Black Celebration. I think that if you want to know what Depeche Mode is known for, their sound, this would probably be the album. This is the dark one. This is the one where it's morose. And when a lot of people just hear Depeche Mode, if they're not thinking of the singles Personal Jesus and you know, the big hits, before that they would think of goth and I'm sad and morose and I'm, you know, depressed and it's, you know, dark lyrics, and it would be this album. This is the one with Fly on the Windscreen, where death is everywhere, and I don't really usually like death in music lyrics, but they really do put it in perspective of how it is everywhere, including a fly on the windscreen. Or windshield, as Mike the American called it earlier. But yeah, sometimes A Question of Time, which is a completely different song than A Question of Lust. But yeah, A Question of Time is great on here. Upbeat, but still the morose lyrics stripped, like Craig was saying earlier. World full of nothing. You know, with a title like that, you know exactly what to expect. It's just a world full of nothing, dressed in black. And then a new dress. Not a blue dress, but a new dress.
Because Princess Di is wearing a new dress.
Yeah, she's got a new dress, and we should all care about that and not worry about the sad, sick world around us type of thing. Dressed in black, you know. And then, it's the kind of thing you just put on, and if you want to feel like just depressed and dark and just what a great night listening. I don't know about listening to this at 11 o'clock in the morning when the sun's out on a hot day, but on a cool fall night, you know, something like that, this would be the one to put on. A Question of Lust is the Martin Gore song on here. And when I heard this is the point with Martin Gore, who I don't know why I love talking about him, because he's so ridiculous. But this was the point where he reaches the level of absurdity where I literally laugh out loud at this Question of Lust song, because he comes on, he's like, I'm fragile like a baby in your arms. Be gentle with me. I'm just a little porcelain doll. And you know, how many times have I heard that? How many times? That means that they want to go to fucking Pound Town when they say shit like that. That is what that means. What grown-ass man's like, I'm fragile, like a baby in your arms. Be gentle with me. You know what that means.
You are making these beautiful songs that Martin Gore sings into
I'm not
like...
listening to that one again.
It's at that point where I'm literally wondering...
I never would think these things. I would never be like, Jesus.
Oh, girl, you got to get out more.
And it's not like be gentle with me in my mental state. I've been through a lot. Just don't mess with me. Be gentle. Because the song is called A Question of Lust, and he's in her arms. So the kind of gentle he wants is a physical gentle. And yeah, you know, people say things like that. They want you to really ram it. So, I mean, you know. Yeah. But, I mean, that's what... He's so precious in his vocals. Sometimes it is kind of funny, and that is the height of that, and it makes me think, is he doing what the English would call taking the piss, or is he serious? That's my question for Depeche Mode fans. Is this dude for real? I mean, fragile.
Well, you've seen the video for it.
Don't do that.
You've seen the video for John the Revelator, haven't you?
John the Revelator.
Yeah! Got him in a hot sweat thinking about getting fragile with Martin Gore. Yeah, so yeah, I just think that's funny. But I mean, even the Martin Gore on here, it has its qualities, probably not for what he intended them for. But yeah, great album, and like I said, one of the two Depeche Mode albums I actually like all the way through. I wish they did more in this. They have a really sweet spot as far as chronologically, so you can probably guess what my number one is, but my number two is Black Celebration.
Interesting. Well, my number two
Was it really?
Yeah, that particular album actually, Black Celebration is in my bottom four. I
Really?
don't know. It just didn't appeal to me. I mean, I'm not saying. The caveat is
Did you like A Question of Lust?
All of Depeche Mode's albums. Nothing really makes me want to run out and buy one of their albums, but there are records that have better qualities to them, and so for my number two, to me is a very strong album, and that's Playing the Angel from 2005. I just love the way the album opens. It just, it just really gets right off. And I just had mentioned the song John the Revelator. That song is so full of energy and swag, and it's got this just great groove to it. I like the line from The Sinner in Me, "I'll never be a saint. It's not a picture your memory takes." I just kind of like that personal observation in that line. It's and this is also the record where I think Dave Gahan's voice is really coming in, and
really
he's
good,
having a lot more control over what he's doing. It's got greater depth, and to me, he had a good voice anyway, even in the early years.
Absolutely.
But this is where things really, I think, for him, come together. And I also like the overall narcotic appeal to the record. It's just got, especially with the song "I Want It All." It's just, it is a almost junkie mentality that's kind of coming through, with that song, and just this uninhibited, uncontrolled desire, for everything, regardless of what. I just like the way it is. It's great irony when you consider the title of the record, "Playing the Angel," and then the songs are all these contrary songs, I guess is the best way to put it. So yeah, number two for me is "Playing the Angel" from 2005. I like the cover of it as well. That's a good cover for the album.
So now it's our absolute favorite Depeche Mode albums.
Yeah. So I struggled. I do want to mention Black Celebration for real quick. It's not number one for me, but it was the one that I was like, where am I going to put this in the list? And unfortunately it didn't make it. And I love the embossed. I actually have, look at mine. Mine's gray. Mine's a German pressing. And it has a misprint on it too. But just because, I like to brag. I don't really. Yes, I do. Shut up. Wine. So Violator.
I have an original.
Yeah, I have an original German.
Oh, I didn't know that was an original. Wow.
Yeah, no.
Color vinyl like that? That's crazy.
Yeah, it's German. Mm-hmm. And like I said, there's a misprint on the label. It has one of the songs listed.
My Black Celebration is on black vinyl, so it matches the title.
Oh, yeah, it matches. Yeah. Look at you. So, Violator, which is also not my number one, which is not even in my list, but Violator is why I hated Depeche Mode for a year. Because all of a sudden, this is a band that I was ridiculed for listening to. This is a band that I was made fun of. Like you're a faggot because you listen to Depeche Mode. Depeche Mode, they're a bunch of gays.
That's probably why I didn't listen to them.
It's like Fifth and Thought, The Cure, New Order, Depeche Mode. They're all gays because they're strange music, and they're And also, I was expecting something more like music for the masses. I've appreciated it later, but all of a sudden, they're everywhere. They're all over the radio. These people that made fun of me for loving this band are now listening to it. They're also telling me that Violator is the first album by Depeche Mode. or excuse me, Depeche Mode is because that's how they pronounced it.
I remember when you did that video talking about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
It's like Depeche Mode, and this is their first album, Violator. I'm like, no, this band has been around for a very long time.
Right.
You got your face, and now you're listening to my music and my
now
band.
you can understand now what makes a man hate another man.
Yeah, I can understand that, and that's really funny because I just had to throw that out, and that is really funny.
No, that's terrible when people, it's like your niche goes mainstream, and the same people who poo-pooed all over it. Now it's like hit the malls.
I mean, it was the same thing with
we've all had that band in our
or those bands, multiple bands.
Yeah, we all have one or two.
Or TV shows, or clothing lines, or anything. Like that.
Like Kitty Cat.
Hairstyles. I mean, it happens with so many things.
So, number one for me.
Wine.
Because I'm going to hear it. Am I going to hear this in unison, maybe?
A broken frame.
Oh, Craig. Oh, no, not a broken frame, which is not available streaming-wise.
On Apple. YouTube.
It's not on Apple Music. It's not on Apple Music, but I have it, so I don't need to listen to it on Apple Music. But, anyways, number one for me is 1984, Some Great Reward. This record, I hear go it. Oh, Craig, give it to me, Fithin. Oh, Craig.
I actually don't own it.
I cannot read the back.
I don't have.
Yeah, I know that. It's
who decided blue on gray was a good.
It's the same thing on the record. It's really hard to.
Everybody's is always bigger than mine.
So people are people. Yes, that was the very first Depeche Mode song I ever heard. It should not be on the album, and then this album would be so much better. But this is the one that I listen to so much. The song Lie to Me, it's just
yeah, that so was not too bad.
That's Lie to Me is so good. I love, it's something to do with that weird sound in the beginning. Like, I really like that. It doesn't matter if this will shout out, I know Fithin hates it because, Martin.
I don't.
It doesn't matter.
Somebody is the big.
Somebody, yes. I think Somebody is beautiful, and I wanted. Craig. Again. Oh, Craig, yes, but also again, I am a 13-year-old hearing the song Somebody, and that is what you're imagining. This is what I want somebody to think of me and for me to think of them when I'm that age. Yeah, is it corny now? I still love it, and Blasphemous Rumors, that, again, that was such a move at that time to do something like that. And I remember I actually had a friend that made me a copy of Catching Up with Depeche Mode. And we all know, because this is said all the time, I was raised LDS, and this was an LDS friend. She omitted that song off of the tape when she made me a copy of it. And I never even knew Blasphemous Rumors existed until I got this record. And because, Catching Up With, that was probably the first thing I ever really had of theirs. And I heard that, and I didn't hear this blasphemous song or this song that was really, they really took it as they're making fun of God or whatever. And it's I don't understand why this is happening. I don't understand why all these things are happening. And why God must have a sixth sense of humor if he's allowing these things to happen. And that's what I got from it. And not this whole, they're anti-God and they're just whatever. And the song, it doesn't matter. I think I mentioned it. That song is just absolutely beautiful to me. Lie to Me is the best song on the record, in my opinion, which right now is the only one that matters. And Master Servant, I really, really loved it back in the day. I don't really love it so much now. People Are People, I don't know that I'll ever love. I did when I was 10 when I heard it for the first time. I saw it on Nickelodeon because there was like when I was young, there would be like on Saturdays there was like a 30-minute music video thing that they would do on Nickelodeon.
Nick Rocks.
And, yeah, Nick Rocks, like right after Danger Mouse, and it was I don't know why I remember this, but the video prior to it was Menudo. And then it was People Are People, and that was the first time I ever heard them. And it was just like they were on a ship in the video or something like that. I mean, I just remember this like sound that I'd never heard before, and so that is the song that brought me to Depeche Mode. But I mean, it's not what keeps me staying because it's really not that great. But yeah, Some Great Reward. It will always remain my favorite record because I'm so emotionally attached to it. There's a theme, isn't there? Craig's always emotionally attached to his number one. You're welcome. Go ahead, Mikey.
I think a lot of people are emotionally attached to their favorite record regardless, because there is some kind of emotional response in terms of the first time you listen to it or whatever memory that it invokes. Music is a very emotional in subjective media. I mean, when you think about it, why are these notes? I mean, you just think about the music itself. Why do these notes make me feel the way they do? It's just sound.
Yeah,
that's why I put Rubber Soul ahead of Revolver in our last video.
Yeah,
Revolver's a better record, but man, Rubber Soul it's so much emotion and memories of it. Yeah, no, never apologize for that. Well, I don't think anyone has my number one. I don't think anyone mentioned my number one in their top five. That makes me. But my number one, and I knew this was going to be my number one from the second we said it, and I've listened to this record probably 10 times in the last 2 weeks since we decided we were going to do. I love this record. It's got my favorite Depeche Mode song on it. I just love the vibe of this record. It doesn't have big hits on it, but it's the album, everything. I love it, and that's Exciter. This is my favorite Depeche Mode album. I love Dream On. Dream On is my favorite. I love how it's got a stripped down sound. It doesn't sound like Depeche Mode. It's got such a great groove to it.
I got it too. But
if Depeche Mode could have a stripped down record, I think this is it. And then I just love Shine, the sweetest condition. When the Body Speaks, Love Theme, Dead of Night, Comatose.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
This is a double promo.
Oh yeah, mine's just a single, and it's
records,
also a promo.
And it's got all these remixes on it, and I don't think I've ever heard this.
And I love
in college.
I love the inside photo on the reissue is great. I love the way they divided it up with the 3 songs on each side. It's always been my favorite Depeche Mode record. I love it. I absolutely love it. And I thought maybe it would change. Listening to everything over again, I thought maybe Violator would move up to number 1, but nope. No, I still love this record.
Dream On's the only song I like on it.
I love that song. It's my favorite Depeche Mode song.
I think I like Free Love too, but yeah.
Oh yeah, no.
Yeah,
Comatose is great. I Feel Loved.
Yeah.
Breathe. Yeah, this is
wow.
I agree with Craig. Wow.
No, I mean I'm not going to be like oh my god, Exciter, but oh Mike,
no
I'm
doubt.
Not saying that.
Thank you, Craig.
I'm not saying that. But I'm
well,
Robert will. I mean, I said it, but we all know Robert was thinking it. That it's just interesting to me, like how we all have different kind of. It's just
we knew we would.
Yeah, this band is all over the place as far as our favorites. But my number one is one that I think everybody has shown. In contrast, I think everybody has shown this, and that's of course Music for the Masses. Because I'm just a big cliche. So this is my favorite. That's the one that I mentioned in my top 10 of the albums of 1987. One of the 2 Depeche Mode albums I actually like. And it was great to hear this again. Just reconfirmed it. But yeah, it's that sweet spot of 86, 87 when they were right before when they were at the top of their game as far as I'm concerned, and before they broke out into the malls with their huge movie 101, and then followed that with Violator. I think 101 was before Violator, right? It wasn't the other way around.
Yes.
Yeah. So
101
that's
was first
that's
because
what
it's not
pushed
nothing.
them. They had a huge push in the U.S. with that movie, and then Violator followed that. But yeah, I mean, Never Let Me Down
101 is
Again.
a great live album. It's great.
I love
Yeah,
that.
it's really good.
Love that starter, Never Let Me Down Again. His voice on these songs where he just keeps in the same register and just sounds, no matter what he's singing, sounds so sarcastic. And so like, I'm taking a ride with my best friend.
And I hope he
Yeah,
never
so
lets
you
me
don't
down
sound
again.
very excited about. He starts this. My favorite part of Just Can't Get Enough, and I don't know if he, just like the Martin Gore stuff, I don't know if he's doing this on purpose or if he's being funny or what. But the best part of that song is when he's like, "It's getting hotter, it's a burning love." It's like it really. That is passion unleashed. It's getting hotter, it's a burning love. It's like, but it really works on albums like this, where he's just got this like, he sounds so unimpressed with everything around him, you know. And when you're in high school and you've got the teenage angst, it really fits well with it. Like, I'm not impressed by any of this bullshit. And his voice really conveys that, and especially on this album. I like Little 15. Behind the Wheel's great. I'm not a fan of Strangelove for whatever reason. That's the single, one of the big singles, and that's like probably my least favorite song on here. But I even like the pimp thing at the end, where it's just the odd, you know, they do the synth thing and they use the synths to, they sound like synths. They don't try to sound like, we're going to try to sound like a guitar or a drum or whatever. But yeah, music for the masses. I guess I'm the masses, so it's for me.
Well,
It's my number
actually,
one.
record.
you would have been the masses if Violator was number one for you.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Violator
Yeah,
and
that's
That
like
would- you
the
would have been the
favorite
master,
pick of
yeah.
everybody.
Songs
Everybody
of Faith
thinks
and
that's what-
Devotion
yeah.
coming in number 2, and then
Right.
101 coming in 3.
Hey, Songs of Faith and Devotion was my number 2, so watch your mouth.
Oh yeah, I didn't realize it. Well, you know, that's their second. That was the one that followed. You know, and they're still
Yeah,
riding
it's a follower of it, but I
and
mean,
then they kind of dip
obviously-
off in popularity after that.
right. I mean, obviously, Violator wasn't even on my list. But...
Yeah.
Well, my
Right.
number one. One person has mentioned it as among their top 5. One person has mentioned it as an awful record. No, I should take that back. 2 people have mentioned it as an awful.
Is this
record.
not going to be the one with the? I can't even remember the name of it with the bird on it.
No,
Okay, the swan or whatever.
no. My favorite Depeche Mode record, and I really do enjoy it, is Spirit from
Okay, yeah.
2017.
I mentioned it as awful.
That would be my number 6.
So it's
Oh, yeah.
I love this. The songs are it's political. The songs are very pointed and meaningful, and they, for the most part, just a couple songs. I feel for the most part, they avoid falling into the, revolutionary cliche mode. And musically, I think they are really strong. The one song that kind of bothers me, but I kind of get where it's going. I'll have to listen to it some more. Is Scum. The lyrics really kind of, I'm trying to figure out, what the what's going on with this song. But the song, The Worst Crime, I think is a really beautiful song because you hearing him saying all these like things and you think he's talking about this and talking about that, and at the end of the song for and I think it's Gahan who's singing it, the worst crime is not all these political things. It's the way we mistreat the earth. It's the way we mistreat our environment. It's this indifference, and we talk about it, but we just don't do anything because we're so much more interested in these other material things. What I like about this record is that there's a couple songs that I feel are a really good homage to their past sound. in the 1980s. There's a couple songs in there that do bring in that more synthy sound and style of playing, but it is better. It's more mature, in my opinion, and it's kind of a nod back to where they were, and bringing it all together. I like a well done political protest album. I've always enjoyed them. And I feel this one really fits in there, and so that's why it's my number one, Spirit.
And there you have it, our number one and our top 5 favorite Depeche Mode albums. All different, all from different periods. Everybody kind of had a different take on what their favorites were, and some of the histories we had, what our first experiences were, and all that. That's what makes these interesting.
Yeah.
And so will it be as interesting when we do the Who?
Who knows?
Yeah, we'll find out. That's our next artist. We're doing a top 5.
Yeah, I'm so good, right? Who knows? Because remember, Craig's never heard a Who record ever.
Oh, so. Who's next?
I have a greatest hits. That's it.
Yes, Who is next?
Yeah, who's next?
Which one? They've got like 40.
It's Icon or something.
They don't have that many studio albums.
It has that terrible "Who's Are You" or "Who Are." I hate that song so much.
With the extra verse with about the sewer hole, because sometimes that gets cut off.
I don't know if it's cut off or not because I don't listen to it because it's the last song on the compilation.
I would suggest if you've never heard a Who album, you start off with the 80s and then go back to earlier stuff. That way you get them out of the way. Do we even have to do the 80s? Is anybody going to put 80s Who on their top 5? I mean, we're not doing a full ranking.
There's only 2.
Well, there was one that just came out like a few years ago.
Yeah, there's a newer one, and there's... That's too many.
I know. It's like 13 or 14.
But before we get to the Who, we will do our tops and bottoms of the year 1995. So that'll be fun as well. And maybe some surprises coming up with other videos as well that we're not... that we're still working on, so you never know what to expect from the vinyl community. Guncles.
Be a surprise.
We're cutting edge, is what we're.
Surprise.
But yeah, let us know what your favorites and are from Depeche Mode in the comments section, or what you thought of our favorites. And thank you so much for watching. We are the Vinyl Community Guncles, and one last time, fragile like a baby in your arms. Be gentle with me. I'm Robert Fithin, along with...
I never willingly give you harm or do you harm. You know what I mean.
Kelvin Wazoo.
I am Craig at the motherfucking Craig Vinyl Plethora. Shut the... More wine.
I'm Mike at Hubkins.
It's getting hotter. It's a burning love.
My shirt is soaked.
It's getting hot in here.
I gotta get out of this room.
Thank you so much for watching. We'll talk to you again next time.
Ta-ta.